Welcome to the deep dive.
Yeah.
We're really thrilled you are joining us today because we have a genuinely fascinating journey ahead.
We really do.
Yeah. Today we are exploring a remarkable two-part retrospective. It was written back in 1996 by Dr. Eli Goldratt, and it's titled My Saga to Improve Production.
It is a phenomenal piece of reflection.
Yes.
And, it provides a brilliant roadmap for anyone trying to drive change in their own world today.
Exactly. Our mission for this deep dive is to explore the daunting, often really frustrating gap between having a truly revolutionary idea and actually getting people to change their behavior to adopt it.
Right.
Because knowing the right answer is really only a fraction of the battle, and Dr. Goldratt learned that the hard way.
He certainly did. To understand this, we need to set the stage a bit. The year is 1982.
Yep.
Dr. Goldratt is the chairman and a major shareholder of a company that Inc. magazine had just ranked as the 6th fastest growing company in the United States.
That is a massive achievement. What exactly was driving that kind of growth? I mean, 6th in the country is huge.
The engine was their production scheduling software. Now, here is the critical part. The software actually worked. It was built on revolutionary concepts for the time. Specifically, they were the only company providing what was called finite-capacity software that delivered real results.
Hold on, before we go further, what exactly does finite-capacity software mean for a factory in 1982? Let's get an ELI 5 on that one. Explain it like I'm 5.
Sure, great question. Back then, most factory planning software assumed infinite capacity.
Infinite, like magic.
Basically, yeah. It pretended that if you needed 100 widgets by Tuesday, you could just tell the machines to make them. It completely ignored that a machine might already be busy or that it can only process 10 widgets an hour.
Oh, I see.
But Goldratt software was finite. It actually looked at the physical limits of the machines on the shop floor and scheduled the work around the reality of those bottlenecks.
Wow. So it actually reflected reality instead of just a wish list.
Exactly. It genuinely helped plant managers increase throughput and reduce their work in process. And because of this, they had a stellar roster of reputable clients. We're talking RCA, General Motors, Kodak, Westinghouse, Philips.
Heavy hitters.
Yeah. Every production manager in the country was desperately trying to achieve exactly what this software did.
Right. So they should have been printing money. They should have had a line out the door. But according to the retrospective, they hit a monumental wall.
A huge wall.
Their highly educated people were constantly on the road, doing seminars, giving presentations, running pilot implementations. And despite all of that conventional marketing and education, their progress was painfully, frustratingly slow.
Painfully slow.
Sales just weren't moving the way they should have been given how good the product was. Okay, let's unpack this. Because Goldratt's solution to this extremely common business problem is where the story goes completely off the rails.
It really does. Because when conventional presentations and pilot programs failed to break the dam, Goldratt decided to try something wildly non-conventional. He decided to write a novel.
About manufacturing.
About manufacturing.
A novel.
Like a fiction book.
A completely out-of-the-box idea. His logic was, if people will read compelling novels about lawyers and doctors, why not plant managers? He wanted to bypass the intellectual defenses people put up when being sold a new management theory.
I can appreciate the creativity, but reading the sources, absolutely nobody else did at the time. The pushback he got was hilarious.
Oh, it was rude.
He went to dozens of publishers and was rejected by all of them. The best, most polite rejection came from McGraw-Hill. They basically said, Dr. Goldratt, if you want to write a textbook about scheduling the shop floor, we're in.
Right.
But a love story about manufacturing, forget it. It will never work. We don't even know what shelf to put it on.
And you have to remember, his own employees refused to even read the drafts.
That is rough.
It is. But Goldratt admitted he didn't blame them. He was the chief salesman, the prime presenter, the lead developer. He was the bottleneck of his own highly successful company. And instead of selling software, he was sequestered away writing a novel. Even the writer he hired to help him didn't believe in it. He brought in a writer named Jeff Cox to co-author it. And Cox disliked the project so much that he refused to share in the royalties.
He wanted cash.
He demanded to be paid in cash, in full upfront, which, in hindsight, was a historically bad financial decision, giving up royalties on this specific book. Though Cox did go on to co-author another business bestseller, Zap, later on.
Eventually, Goldratt found a single ray of light. Larry Gadd, the owner of North River Press, agreed to print it. Gadd told Goldratt they would be lucky to sell out the first printing, which was just 3,000 copies.
3,000, wow.
But he liked the book personally, so he took the risk.
And they gave away 100-bound galleys as gifts just to get the snowball rolling. But then the book, which was titled The Goal, absolutely explodes. It becomes a phenomenon. Goldratt starts getting hundreds of fan letters from actual plant managers.
The validation was unprecedented. Managers were writing in saying things like, "Your book is not a novel anymore, now it's a documentary."
That's amazing.
They were taking the actions of the book's protagonist, a fictional plant manager named Alex Rogo, and following his exact steps to the letter in their own factories.
There's this one funny quote from a plant manager who wrote to him saying, "We replicated his results exactly. Currently, the only difference between your book and my reality is that my wife didn't come back yet."
Which is a brilliant testament to the realism of the narrative Goldratt managed to create.
It really is. So he writes a massive bestseller. People love it. But the retrospective reveals a huge plot twist here. Despite all the praise, despite everyone calling the concepts in the book pure common sense, they weren't actually implementing it.
This is a crucial lesson for anyone listening who is trying to introduce a new paradigm. Understanding an idea intellectually and actually changing your daily operations are two very different things.
Totally.
The factories read the book, they nodded along, and then they went right back to ignoring constraints. They continued to justify investments based on outdated cost calculations. They kept prioritizing localized efficiency variances over systemic progress.
Let's pause there because the retrospective leans heavily into the accounting side of things here. Can we get an Eli 5 on what prioritizing efficiency variances means and why it was so detrimental?
Certainly. In traditional manufacturing accounting, there is a concept called absorption costing. It basically says that to make a product cheaper per unit, you should keep your machines running constantly to absorb the overhead costs.
Okay, that makes intuitive sense.
Right. An efficiency variance is just a metric measuring whether a machine is running at 100% capacity. So plant managers were evaluated on keeping every single machine busy all the time.
But wait, if they keep machines busy just to look good on a spreadsheet, aren't they just creating a mountain of excess inventory that nobody has bought yet?
You've hit the nail on the head. They were creating bottlenecks and tying up cash in unsold goods. But because the accounting department rewarded them for efficiency variances, they kept doing it, even after reading the goal.
That sounds incredibly frustrating. So Goldratt goes into investigation mode. He identifies 3 distinct obstacles to change. The first was the inability to propagate the message. I mean, it is very hard to summarize a novel in a quick 10-minute corporate pitch.
Very hard. And the second was the inability to translate the book into specific procedures. Managers would read it and say, well, our bottlenecks are constantly moving, or we have a unique situation here.
They always think they're unique.
Exactly. They wanted step-by-step procedures, not just an illustrative story.
And the third obstacle was what we just talked about, the inability to persuade decision makers to change how things were measured. You can't ask a floor manager to change how they work if upper management is still evaluating them based on those flawed accounting metrics.
You just can't.
So what does Goldratt do? He pivots again. He realizes a book isn't enough, so he turns to the computer.
But not for scheduling software this time. He starts developing educational computer games to teach his logistical concepts, things like drum buffer rope and buffer management.
I have to ask for another translation here. Drum buffer rope sounds like something from a marching band, not a factory. What is he trying to teach them with these games?
It's a fantastic analogy he created. Imagine a line of Boy Scouts hiking on a trail.
Okay.
The slowest hiker is the bottleneck. They're the drum. They set the pace for the whole troop. The rope is an imaginary tie from the slowest hiker to the leader, ensuring the fast hikers don't run too far ahead and get lost.
Makes sense.
And the buffer is a little bit of space left in front of the slowest hiker, so if someone up ahead trips, the slowest hiker doesn't have to stop walking. Translated to a factory, it means you pace your entire operation to your slowest machine.
That makes perfect sense. So he figured if there's anything more powerful than a novel to get people to understand procedures like that, it's a video game. But wait, he was running a highly profitable scheduling software company and decided to make video games. How on earth did his board of directors allow that?
They didn't. You have to view it from their perspective. They invested in a fast-growing software company. Suddenly, the chairman is saying his plans don't include any actions to boost software sales.
Oh boy.
Instead, he's writing novels and making educational games. They felt they had gone from a money-making machine to a bottomless pit.
They literally told him they felt contaminated by his ideas. and they showed him the door.
Yes.
The software company he built into a giant kicked him out.
Yeah.
Because he realized software alone couldn't force human beings to change their behavior.
It is a profound irony. When companies bought his original software, they focused all their energy on the technical installation, rather than the fundamental paradigm shift in measurements and procedures that was actually required to improve.
But Goldratt doesn't give up. He makes a comeback. He founds the Abraham Y. Goldratt Institute. And this time, he ensures there are no external shareholders. The explicit goal of the Institute is to generate and disseminate knowledge, not just chase financial returns.
Yeah.
And by focusing on knowledge instead of pure profit, they actually turned a profit in less than 2 months.
This is the period where his philosophy truly matures. He formalizes his approach into what we now know as the theory of constraints, or TOC. And at the heart of this are the 5 focusing steps for ongoing improvement.
Let's slow down here, because this seems like the core takeaway for you listening right now. Walk me through these 5 steps. Let's say instead of a 1980s factory, we are running a busy modern coffee shop. How do these steps apply?
I love that framing. Okay, step 1 is identify the system's constraint. In our coffee shop, the line is out the door. You observe the flow and realize the single espresso machine is the bottleneck. It can only make 1 drink every 2 minutes. That is your constraint.
Got it. Step 1, find the bottleneck. What's step 2?
Step 2, exploit the constraint. This means getting the most out of it without spending any money. So you ensure that the espresso machine is never, ever idle.
Okay.
You don't let the barista operating it walk away to wipe down tables or take out the trash.
Make sure the bottleneck is always working.
Yeah.
Step 3.
Step 3, subordinate everything else to the constraint. This is the hardest part. The cashier, the person getting pastries, the person taking orders, their only priority now is making sure the espresso barista has the cups, the milk, and the orders prepped perfectly so the machine never stops.
Even if the pastry person has to stand around doing nothing for a minute.
That's fine as long as the espresso machine is running.
Okay, so we've squeezed every drop of efficiency out of what we have. What if the line is still out the door?
Then you move to step 4, elevate the constraint. This is where you finally spend money. You buy a second espresso machine. You have elevated the system's capacity.
And the final step, step 5.
Step 5 is a warning. If in the previous steps a constraint has been broken, go back to step 1. Do not let inertia become the system's constraint. By buying that second espresso machine, the coffee shop can now make drinks faster than the cashier can ring people up.
Oh.
The constraint has moved. You must start the whole process over.
That is such a practical, universally applicable framework. But here's where it gets really interesting in the sources. Because just as he formalizes this brilliant system, a bizarre new crisis emerges. His clients are implementing the 5 focusing steps. They are succeeding, but they are improving too much.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it illustrates the danger of isolated improvements in a complex system. When these plants implemented the theory of constraints, their productivity skyrocketed. They became highly efficient.
Which sounds great.
It does, but the market demand for their products didn't magically double overnight just because they could produce twice as much.
So the constraint, the bottleneck holding them back, it moved. It was no longer a physical machine on the factory floor. The constraint moved outside the company and into the market. They had a lack of sales.
Precisely. And when a plant can suddenly produce way more than the market wants to buy, what is the immediate result? Excess manpower. People are standing around with nothing to do because they've optimized the system so well.
So let me get this straight. These workers bust their backs to implement this new system. They reorganize their plant, they save the company money, and corporate management's reward for all that excess manpower is
A pink slip.
a pink slip.
Yes. The natural corporate tendency kicked in. Cost cutting. They laid people off. It is a devastating, vicious cycle. Workers were literally punished for their own improvements.
That is awful.
Morale plummeted. The process of ongoing improvement completely ground to a halt because nobody wanted to innovate themselves out of a job. In some cases, performance deteriorated so badly that entire plants closed down.
That is incredibly dark.
Yeah.
It forced Goldratt to completely reevaluate his approach yet again. He realized it was financially and morally dangerous to help a plant double its production if that extra capacity couldn't be absorbed by the market. He completely shifted the Institute's business model.
He had to.
He limited their services strictly to plants where doubling production would not cause the constraint to immediately shift into the market.
Right. He had to ensure the company actually had the sales pipeline to support the substantial efficiency gains he was going to give them. And to address the broader problem of marketing and human relationships, he wrote his next major book, It's Not Luck.
But he still had to slay the final boss, so to speak. He still had to definitively overcome those original 3 obstacles to widespread implementation: the inability to propagate, the inability to translate, and the inability to persuade decision makers to change their measurements. So he upgrades his toolkit.
To tackle the first obstacle, getting the message out to people who won't read books, he makes a movie version of the goal. But he does something rather clever. He realizes that a strict, faithful adaptation of the novel wouldn't actually be helpful for corporate training.
No.
So he rewrites the script into a how-to version. It keeps the spirit of the original, but clearly outlines the exact steps the characters followed.
And for the second obstacle, translating the concepts into actionable plant procedures, he took the educational computer games and 2-day workshops he developed and turned them into a comprehensive self-learning kit. This allowed plant personnel to construct detailed logistical procedures tailored perfectly to their specific situations.
But the ultimate validation came regarding that stubborn third obstacle, the deeply entrenched resistance from analytical decision makers to change their accounting measurements.
Yes, the Institute of Management Accountants sponsored a survey on actual implementations of the theory of constraints. They published a 200-page report admitting that the traditional accounting textbooks had been wrong.
Wrong for decades.
They found that companies using TOC were abandoning those old practices of absorption costing.
And the quote from this report is staggering. They called Goldratt's TOC thinking process the most important intellectual achievement since the invention of calculus.
Since calculus. That is high praise. But even with all these tools and validations, Goldratt realized something else, didn't he?
What's fascinating here is that while the tools, the games, and the movies were essential, Goldratt realized they were just delivery mechanisms. He recognized that the ultimate key to successful implementation isn't just having the best mathematical algorithm. The biggest obstacle is steering the dynamics of human interaction and systematically overcoming the natural human resistance to change.
He actually mapped out this resistance. He identified 5 distinct layers of resistance that every change maker has to peel back. And this is a vital takeaway for you listening right now if you are trying to change anything in your organization.
Let's walk through them carefully. The first layer is people claiming the problem is completely out of their hands.
So basically passing the buck, like saying it's the vendor's fault or corporate won't let us do that.
Exactly. They deflect. And if you don't prove the problem is within their control, they will never buy into your solution. You were just talking to a wall. But once you get past that, you hit the second layer, arguing that your proposed solution simply won't yield the desired outcome.
So they don't see the logic yet. They agree there's a problem they can fix, but they think your idea is a dud.
Yes. The solution might seem obvious to you, but to the skeptics, the cause and effect doesn't make sense yet. This requires careful step-by-step logic to overcome. And if you manage to explain the logic and get past layer 2, you clash smack into layer 3.
Which is?
This is the yes, but phase. They agree your solution might work, but they argue it will lead to devastating negative side effects.
That sounds exhausting. Like, sure, we'll speed up production, but quality will plummet. That kind of thing.
Precisely. This layer requires an immense amount of stamina and patience. You cannot dismiss their fears. You have to systematically address every feared negative consequence. But let's say you do that. You arrive at the fourth layer, raising practical obstacles that will prevent implementation.
So now they are on your side conceptually, but they are throwing up logistical roadblocks. Great idea, but we don't have the IP budget for that.
Correct. You have shifted the conversation from should we do this to how can we overcome this specific hurdle? And if you clear those roadblocks, you finally reach the fifth and final layer of resistance, raising doubts about the collaboration of others.
I'm fully on board. We have the budget, but the marketing department will never agree to change their workflow.
It is a gauntlet. But Goldratt's revelation is that peeling back these layers sequentially with empathy and rigorous logic actually transforms the dynamic. It turns a stubborn skeptic's resistance into the enthusiastic energy of an inventor. When they overcome that final doubt about collaboration, they take full ownership of the change.
So what does this all mean? Why does this saga from 1996 matter to you today? The big takeaway isn't just about manufacturing or software or even the theory of constraints itself. It is the realization that knowing the right answer to a problem is only about 10% of the battle. The real work, the 90%, is translating that knowledge into a format people can actually understand and systematically, empathetically peeling back their deep psychological resistance to change.
This raises an important question, one I encourage you to consider today. Think about a major change you are trying to make in your own workplace or even in your personal life right now. Are you stuck because your idea is actually bad? Or are you just failing to address one of Goldratt's 5 layers of resistance? If you can stop arguing and instead identify exactly which layer your skeptics are stuck on, you might just find the key to finally moving forward.
That is such a powerful lens to view our daily challenges through. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into Dr. Goldratt's remarkable journey. Keep